the largest, right? In general, higher salaries did better under option 1. Does that make some sense to you that higher salaries would do better with that larger percent? Yeah, I'm hoping that makes some sense. You're taking 5% of a much larger number. So who did better under option 2? People on the lower salary end. All right, how many of you got to number 4? Did you start working on how to generalize that? Did that go anywhere? Did you come up with something?
Yeah, isn't it D times 0.05?
All right, look at number 4 and what it asked you to do. Write a formula to give the new salary for a person earning D dollars per year. We've already played this game with specific salaries, but we want to start generalizing it, and that's where the algebra becomes really useful. So instead of doing a specific salary, I want to use D as a generic salary. All right, and if you're really stuck on how would I write it with a generic variable, ask yourself how you wrote it with a specific number. Okay, so how did you find this $15,750? What exactly did you do? You did the $15,750 times what? 0.05. That got you the amount of the raise, and then what did you do with it? Added it onto the original salary, right? Did anybody, I know at least one group found a shortcut for this. Did anybody else? Or did you do the whole table this way? Tell them what your shortcut was.
To multiply by 1.05, and then it eliminates the addition step.
If you just take that base salary and multiply by 1.05, you could do it in one step, which really saved some time on this, right? This is 5%, this is 100% of the salary, so altogether it's 105%. The 1 gets you the original salary, this gets you the raise, but it does it in one shot. Have you seen this trick before?
Yep.
Some yeses, some no's. Okay. If you recognize that, it just cuts a step out and it makes the calculation go a little faster. But we were trying to generalize this. So what if instead of a specific salary, what if I replace that with a generic D? All right? So that would be the generic salary times 5% plus the generic salary again. Okay, that's what I was looking for in number 4. Could you generalize it? What would be the other way to write it? What would this side look like if I used the D? That becomes D, and it's just times 1.05. Do we tend to write it this way in algebra, though? How could I make this a little better? Usually you see the number first, 1.05 times D. So starting to introduce some variables and look at this algebraically. If you're stuck on how to do that, if you're ever stuck on how to do that, write out a specific example first and then try to replace that salary with whatever letter you're trying to use. All right, what would option, this was all option 1, right? Option number 1. What would option number 2 look like with the D in there? What would be the slickest way to write it? How do you take 3%, add it back on, and then throw on a $1,000 increment? How should I write it?
1.03D plus 1,000.
Yes, perfect. 1.03 times whatever my salary is, and I'm using D for that, plus the 1,000. Yeah. Why would you ever want to do this? Why isn't our table good enough? Why do we need letters? Why do we need algebra? Well, what I want to do next is I want to look at this on a spreadsheet. Did anybody start to find this tedious, going through and calculating this over and over again, all these salaries? What if you're the head of HR and you've got to do this for hundreds of people? Would you do it this way?
No.
I'm hoping not, right? You're probably going to do this on Excel or some kind of spreadsheet. So that's what I want to show you next. What would this look like on a spreadsheet?